Okay, let's talk about the New York Jets. They're in a rebuild, kind of been in a rebuild for a minute now, let's be honest, with these New York Jets. So it's interesting to see what are they going to do to improve. What are the ways that they can improve? And there are ways they can do things. Obviously, the number one thing is just the Zach Wilson of it all. Will we see this second year jump with Wilson? And if we do, okay, well, that's going to make a big difference in your football team, and to some degree building around Wilson probably will be just the way that they view things. Let's not have a repeat of last year. Let's get better on the offensive side of the ball, more so than if our defense sucks but we have a great offense and Zach Wilson looks like the guy, we're in a great spot. If our defense is great but Zach Wilson sucks, not in as good of a spot. So that's the way I view the Jets. Let's get into who they have for free agents and how much cap space they have. So here we go. Jets cap space, a lot of money. $48 million in cap space. You see their free agents. The number to the right. This is PFF's guess as to about how much they will make on the open market. So someone like Marcus May, very good safety for them. Probably someone you'll want to keep. And if it's only $6 million, that seems like a tag you can deal with. I don't think that you're not sweating too much to $6 million to keep Marcus May. I don't think. Now he maybe had a down year last year, so I can kind of get it. But part of it is like, listen, when there isn't much talent around you, it's hard to look that impressive. And he also just didn't play much. So that's a big part of it. Morgan Moses at $8 million. I mean, if you lose him, you lose him. He was kind of just sort of this guy you took a flyer on. Played well for you, was solid. So you don't need to keep him, but it'd be nice to keep him. Of course, if you don't keep Morgan Moses, then you'll have to replace him with somebody. So that's kind of just the way it works. Again, this is a difficult name to pronounce. Folorunzu Fatowski, maybe is how you say that. Apologies if I messed that up. Another guy, though, that's been a solid interior defensive lineman for the Jets, and if you lose him, you do have to replace him with a body. Maybe you can do better than with $8 million, but you're still gonna have to replace him with somebody. And then a few receivers: Jamison Crowder, Keelan Cole, and Braxton Berrios. Now, they put some effort into the receiving core last year, and it didn't really work out too well. I mean, some guys showed some flashes, but like for example, Braxton Berrios, who was probably the best of these guys. Berrios also played good special teams, so he's maybe a guy you might want to keep. Maybe you let someone like Keelan Cole and like Jamison Crowder walk and keep Berrios. Something like that would make sense. If they wanted to re-sign all of these guys, they would need $40 million to do so, which means they would still have $8 million left over. And given how so many teams spend more over the actual cap, again, I say this in almost every video, only 2 teams spent under the salary cap in terms of actual money last year. Teams spend over the salary cap. So it's $8 million, but it's kind of more than that, really. Going over to players that they could cut. I'm not saying they should cut all of these guys, but these are guys who they could cut if they wanted to. So a couple of offensive linemen. George Fant, who, again, if you keep Moses, you'll probably maybe let him go, or at least that's an option on the table. Do you want to get rid of some of these bodies in the offensive line spot? I don't know. But again, he's kind of similar to Moses. A guy you'd like to keep, but if it doesn't work out that way, you can save the $10 million. That's not the worst thing in the world. George Fant was heavily mocked when the Jets signed that contract, but he actually played pretty well for them. And again, at this point, they can, save $10 million by getting rid of him. So it's basically a no risk, and actually kind of worked out all right for them. From what we saw from him. So there's that. Connor McGovern, another guy who, if it was me, I'd probably get rid of another offensive lineman, but you're saving $9 million there. Probably what I would do, but again, we'll see how it goes down. I don't see the practice for these guys, so maybe they'll decide to keep him. You have Sheldon Rankins, a defensive tackle, which would save you $5 million. He was PFF's 96th graded interior defensive lineman last year. He's had some good years, but it might be kind of a way to save some money. You could certainly you can make that decision if you want to. Another offensive lineman, Greg Van Roten. You can't cut all these guys, but you can cut at least 1 or 2 of them. So that, again, another guy who you could consider if you wanted to. Ryan Griffin, again, could consider it if you want to. He's a fine tight end. I don't know, only $3 million. I'd keep him, but it's an option on the table. Same thing with Quincy Williams. It's okay, if you got rid of him, fine. I don't think he's a great player, but he's also not getting paid that much. So only if you really have to save the money would I really feel like it's necessary in this situation. Same thing with Justin Hardy. It's okay, he'll save you a couple of million here if you do it. He's a body in the room. You're going to have to pay somebody regardless, but you can maybe save $1 million by signing someone slightly cheaper. But, not a big deal there. Going over here now, it's always important to look at this stuff when we talk about what do you have to be better at. Well, let's talk about what were you good and what were you bad at last year, because there were actually some things they were okay about, and there were a lot of things they were not so good about. So just so you know what you're looking at, this is where they ranked in Pro Football Focus grades for each of these positional categories. So PFF graded them as the 29th best passing attack, which is not ideal. You'd like to be better than 29th. Hey, at least you're not 30th, 31st, or 32nd, but still not great. And of course, it all does start with Zach Wilson. Worth mentioning, that wasn't all Zach Wilson's grade, but Zach Wilson wasn't graded particularly well, so it also doesn't help. For whatever it's worth, Mike White did end up with a lower grade than Wilson, so it did bring it down a little bit. But still, the whole point of the Jets is let's hope that things improve in year two with Zach Wilson. And part of it is like giving him guys to throw to. The offensive line gets all the criticism, and I'm worried the Jets are going to learn the wrong lesson and kind of think that it was the offensive line's fault. I thought the offensive line was fine, and PFF thought they were even better than I thought they were. They had some, a pretty good grade on the O-line, like 11th best. That's a tier 2 offensive line. Like, that's not a bad O-line whatsoever. The issue is guys weren't getting open, which led to Zach Wilson holding on to the ball for too long, which he already does anyways, which led to a lot of sacks and a lot of pressures. So that's kind of the thing is, I think the receiving core, to me, that's really the area that they need to improve upon. And I think it would be, with some potential big name free agent receivers who could be on the market, I think it would be a huge mistake for them to not go after them. And again, who knows who's going to get tagged and who's like, okay, is Devontae Adams really going to hit the market? Probably not. But if he does, like, make him an offer. Chris Godwin, make him an offer if he's on the market. Mike Williams, I actually think would be a great fit with Zach Wilson. And maybe even take a flyer on an Allen Robinson or an Odell Beckham. So, Michael Gallup's a free agent. Antonio Brown's a free agent. So there are some guys that you should look at least, if nothing else, or maybe just do it through the draft. A lot of people have speculated with the 10th overall pick, they could go with a draft guy there. That would also make sense to me. But you got to improve that receiving core. To me, that would be my primary focus going into this offseason. Also, the entire defense is bad. You have the occasional solid player here. The pass rush wasn't great. You also did go out and you added Carl Lawson last year, and then he got hurt all year. So, there was some bad luck here. And, Quinnen Williams is very good. So, I think you have the tools to make a defensive line good. I think that you don't spend that much more resources into it, although there has been speculation of them going at least to some degree, there's been speculation of them trying to improve that defensive line even more. That is kind of the Robert Saleh philosophy, which I don't know if I love necessarily, but that's his philosophy. The run defense, obviously, if you kind of build the depth on a defensive line and maybe in the linebacker core, that's how you can really improve both of those two things. And then I also think they need to, going corner in the draft makes sense to me. Maybe even sign a corner as well, because there are a few good corners potentially available. But that's what they have to improve upon. I mean, that's the main thing they have to pay attention to right now. Improve your ability to pass and your ability to cover them passing. I mean, it's a passing league, and the 30th ranked coverage unit, the 29th ranked receiving unit, and the 29th ranked passing unit, it's no wonder they've struggled. So yeah, I mean, listen, this first year of Zach Wilson was definitely a disappointment. I was a big Zach Wilson fan out of the draft. I was disappointed with what I saw from him, but we did start to see some flashes, especially towards the end of the year. I kept saying this whole narrative that he hasn't shown flashes is silly. He's shown plenty of flashes. It's the consistency he lacks, and maybe what will make you more consistent is just having your first read open. People keep saying he needs to learn to take checkdowns. Well, hey, you know what is a better situation for him if he doesn't have to take a check down because Chris Godwin's open and you're just throwing to your first read in general as opposed to your first read being covered, and now you have to figure something out. So that's a big way to help that consistency, I would think. And then you just hope that you can continue to develop him. And then the defense still needs some work, but there's things you can do there as well, because they do have a lot of draft capital at this point, which they can use to their benefit, and to have some cap space. So the Jets, not in an awful situation. It all does always come down to the quarterback, though, and we'll see what happens. So, yep, that's what I think about the Jets. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And, of course, as always, thanks for watching.